Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Emma. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Strategic Initiatives for Civic Champs. A couple facts about me. I am also a 2022 Venture for America Fellow, so you'll learn my connection to Megan Butler in that way. When I was in college, I studied music education with an emphasis in instrumental studies. I'm a drummer. I also just moved to Pittsburgh about a year ago, and I volunteer regularly here. And I'm 23, so I fit into this category of Gen Z. Excited to give you my opinions. I hope that it's helpful for you all. But yeah, I'll pass it over to Megan to introduce herself.
Thanks, Emma. I'm thrilled to be here this afternoon. My name is Megan Butler, and as Emma said, I am the Community Director for Pittsburgh with Venture for America. So I have the privilege to work with Emma as a VFA Fellow, and I think I saw a couple other VFA Fellows in attendance today, so shout out to all my VFA colleagues. Venture for America is a national nonprofit organization that runs a 2-year fellowship program for recent college graduates who are interested in careers in entrepreneurship. So our mission is really to build an inclusive and accessible future to career paths in entrepreneurship across the country. And I work primarily with Gen Z folks through the fellowship, although age is not a specific requirement because we're typically working with recent college graduates. The vast majority end up being in that Gen Z demographic, and really excited to share some insights with everybody this afternoon.
Great, and I'll pass it over to Morgan to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Morgan Bergman. I'm the Marketing and Development Associate for the Western Pennsylvania Diaper Bank. So I've been here for almost a year. Woohoo! Through my job, I work with all our volunteers and I coordinate our volunteer schedule. So that includes different groups that are in Gen Z. I'm also a part of Gen Z. I am 24, even though I don't look like it. I also attend the West Virginia University, and I'm getting my master's in integrated marketing and communications.
Yeah, and the Western PA Diaper Bank is a customer of Civic Champs. So we're super glad Morgan's here, and Megan, very grateful to have you here as well. But yeah, we'll go right into it, you guys. So we're gonna, gain empathy for Gen Z, learn a little bit more background of who we're really talking about today. All right, so to start us off, these are just some basics of Gen Z, right? So if you didn't know, Gen Zers were born from the late 20s to the early 2010s. So I think often people, think about maybe high school, college age students, but this goes even farther down to 11 years old to 26-year-olds. So a large range of people here in this category from, middle school all the way up to college students and post-grad. Another great fact to think about with Gen Z is that this generation has grown up with technology, having access to technology at a very young age, having access to social media at a very young age. Also, this generation has grown up with remote working experiences. So me, for example, right, my first career out of college has been, primarily a remote experience. So thinking about that as well for this generation. Another fact with Gen Z, we've grown up in a post 9/11 world. So thinking sociopolitically, right, about this generation, how they've grown up in classrooms, how they've grown up with leadership, how, the media has affected a lot of the way they think about the world and about themselves. And then the last fact here, this is a generation with, high social emotional awareness. So thinking about how they're talking about mental health on the day-to-day, they're not usually afraid to talk about mental health in spaces with leadership, with family members, and with peers. And so, yeah, keep this all in mind as we continue with our presentation today. And I'll pass it to Megan to give you some more facts about Gen Z.
Yeah, talking a little bit more about pivotal experiences for Gen Z folks. Certainly COVID-19 had a huge impact on everybody across the world, but because a lot of Gen Zers were in some of their formative years during COVID-19, looking at college, high school, middle school. Post-COVID, we really are seeing an increased need and desire for social interaction, opportunities to build community. So that certainly is going to serve the foundation for a lot of the opportunities we'll be talking about with how to get Gen Zers engaged in volunteer work, which can help to serve as, some of that social interaction and community building. And on the next slide, just to level set a little bit about how Gen Z was affected by COVID, you can see based on this quick bar graph, every generation was impacted largely negatively, but Gen Zers, who are the leftmost bar graph here, were the worst at coping with Gen Z, or coped the worst with COVID-19.
So when looking at Gen Z, they're very passionate about what they're involved in, whether it be something like diversity, equity, and inclusion, or just a mission that they fell in love with. I like to use Period, which is a menstruation advocacy group. As an example, they have a Period Youth Advisory Council, and from there they have 14 to 25-year-olds on their council. So they're informing decisions on strategies that Period does. So when looking at Gen Z, having them more involved in what they care about is very important to them, and helping them decide where they're going to work, where they're going to volunteer in different aspects in that area.
Yeah, and then really highlighting about that digital literacy with Gen Zers. Social media has always really been a part of this generation's lives from when they were very young. And so really thinking about how that's affected them, right? We're able to constantly connect with people instantaneously around the world. And so ever since I was, like 10, I've had social media. And so thinking about how that's really affected the way that we, think about our identities too, and how it's always been very front facing to our peers online. Another piece of social media just to keep in mind is a lot of Gen Z folks also struggle with addiction when it comes to social media, as well as escapism, right? So if you're in a social situation, it's very easy if you're not feeling included, or if you're feeling awkward, to simply look down at your phone and get online and kind of escape from your environment. So just thinking about that, right, as this generation has grown up with that. And then just some facts, right? 55% of Gen Z use their smartphones 5 or more hours a day, and 26% of Gen Z use their smartphones 10 or more hours a day, right? So this generation really, it can swing both ways. They're very technologically savvy, but sometimes that can swing even to be very harmful for this group of people.
Research has shown that Gen Z is largely motivated based on values and based on wanting to make sure that their behavior and what they're dedicating their time to really aligns to work that they want to be giving back to the world and to society in some way. In my role at Venture for America, I primarily work with Gen Z individuals through career paths and through trying to help connect them with job opportunities, primarily at startups that fit what they want to do with their careers. But both in volunteer work and in professional work, we've really seen that Gen Z individuals are very driven by wanting to understand the why behind their tasks, right? They don't want to be just told by a supervisor or a volunteer manager, this is what we need you to do and you just need to do it. They really are driven to understanding, okay, if I'm going to be doing this, what is the purpose? What is the greater good that that's adding to? So that also creates a really strong opportunity for volunteer work and kind of being able to connect the work that volunteers are doing with the larger mission of a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So that gives you a little background, right, of who we're talking about today. And now we'll continue that talking about those volunteer habits that we've seen with this generation.
Hold on.
Yeah, you got it, Morgan.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, why am I not working right now? So the of engaging with Gen Z volunteers. So this group that we've been working with, especially at the diaper bank, we work with them whether they're at their schools, their universities, or even at their internships. And some of that has turned into our biggest way of getting more people to come in. So I have volunteers that used to volunteer while they were in college, and now they're coming back. I've had volunteers that have started in college, and then they did diaper drives, period product drives. So really engaging with them in that first initial time of them being a volunteer is super duper important, because from there, they're going to grow and develop as a person, and they're going to keep in the back of their minds like, hey, I helped this nonprofit. I'm still very interested in their mission, and I really want to give back. So you can see in that picture as well that back in 2017, there wasn't a lot of volunteerism with this age group, but since COVID, it has grown, and now you can tap into those groups because they're more welcome into coming in and volunteering.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning that nonprofits and other organizations can be really creative with the formats that they're providing for volunteer opportunities, drawing that tie back to COVID and what Gen Z individuals want in a post-COVID world. Certainly, a lot of people are looking for in-person volunteering opportunities to form connections, to build community, especially with one specific city or geographic region. But on the next slide, Emma's also going to talk about some opportunities for virtual opportunities for volunteering.
Yeah, so as we think about Gen Z habits, and we talked about, they live in this digital world, and they also may have a lot more remote experiences. They may prefer to have virtual volunteering opportunities. I think sometimes it's harder for us to think about what this could look like because it's a new kind of way to give back to organizations. But I came up with a couple examples just to share with y'all. So we actually had a Civic Champs intern tell me last week that he prefers virtual volunteering and actually chose to do a financial advising volunteering opportunity where he talked with a family, over Zoom to advise them on their financial choices. Another example, right, when I was in college, I did virtual volunteering for a drumming nonprofit by helping them with their social media and cleaning up spreadsheets and other things like that. And so just definitely something to keep in mind, right, as we're continuing to move even more into a digital era, that this could be a great opportunity to recruit and retain your Gen Z volunteers.
So nobody wants to volunteer alone. My mom, so this is like a little story. My mom used to drag me to volunteer things when I was in high school. Oh, somebody says they're unable to hear anything.
We can hear you, Morgan. I think it might just be
Hear
that.
me? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you.
That's good. So whenever it came to me, my mom was dragging me out and I was doing things alone. At the diaper bank, there aren't a lot of people that come alone. It's always a fun activity to do with friends. If you're unfamiliar with what we do like diaper wrapping. So it's a quick and easy activity that you can do with friends. And I know there are different places and organizations that you can also do activities with friends, whether it's volunteering at a race to hand out bibs or like come into the diaper bank to wrap diapers. There's different activities you can always do with friends and share the moment while gaining experiences and friends and other friends, really. But
yeah. All right, so we're going to move into some of these action items for all of you with tips on how to recruit and retain these Gen Z volunteers. So we'll just keep on moving right through it. These are the 5 different areas we're going to talk about with recruiting Gen Z. Again, we're going to send all of these slides out to you. A lot of these slides have a lot of words, and so don't be afraid. We're going to send it to you. All right, so first thing we want to talk about here, how to recruit, is to really add as much information as you can. This is the information generation. We've always been able to really, Google anything and have that information at our fingertips. And so the more information you can give to this audience up front about what that experience is going to look like, whether it's, where they need to park or what the dress code is, exactly what their role is going to look like, if they're going to be with friends, if it's by themselves, what that check-in process looks like. This is all really helpful and can cause or can, allow your Gen Z to come into the experience with ease and confidence. It also is a really great first impression for your nonprofit to show that you're very, detail-oriented and communicative with all of your volunteers, not just your Gen Z audience. And then Morgan, I wanted to ask you, I know when I volunteered with you, you gave me a tour of the place. And so I thought that was like a really great thing to highlight here. So if you want to talk a little bit about just practically giving, a tour when your volunteers come in for the first time.
Yes. So I am very kind and I give a free tour to anybody who comes. So with the diaper bank, where our office is kind of spread out. So the area I'm in right now is our volunteer area, but we also have a space where we prep our orders, and then we have a space that we store our diapers. So as we're walking around, I give everybody information on what we do, whether it's the period products behind me or across the hall where we have all our diapers, how we get those diapers. And I give them the statistics, like 1 in 2 families struggle to afford diapers. So they're learning all this information while they're here, and they can see also the importance of what they're doing and how many families it'll benefit.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I'll pass it over to Megan.
Yeah, so recognizing the fact that a lot of Gen Z individuals are either in college, thinking about applying to college, maybe recently graduated from college, or pursuing their first professional opportunity. It's a great opportunity to think about ways that you can connect volunteer opportunities with overall academic success or career success. So make sure you're open about ways that Gen Z volunteers can leverage their experience to help with applications, whether it's applications to colleges, general resumes for your professional development, and also be open about the types of skills that they can gain from volunteer experiences. So based on the tasks, are they going to be learning public speaking skills? Are they going to be learning organizational or operational skills? You can be really creative based on the task, but it can be helpful to outline some of the tangible skills that volunteers are going to walk away based on that experience. And also just thinking creatively about other ways that volunteers can benefit professionally. So are you going to be able to grow your network based on folks that you're meeting at volunteering opportunities? All of those can all be incentives for Gen Z individuals to volunteer.
So I have a very, very big soft spot for our school groups. We have high school groups and college groups come. You can always connect to National Honor Societies, Key Clubs, and for high school, Circle K and sororities and fraternities for college. Depending on what you do, you can also connect with middle schools. For us, we're 14 and up for our volunteer opportunities. What we've done and still do, on a high school level, I have a group that comes bi-weekly. They're a special needs school. They come in, they wrap diapers. We keep a track of what they do, and it's a good connection because they're building their resume. So whenever they graduate, they're able to go out and say, hey, I did this. I grew these skills in these areas, which is a program that I'm very fond of. With colleges, we have developed relationships with colleges. Well, actually, Kathy has, our executive director. She sprinted, so then I could just kind of keep up with her. So these relationships she's built, we have relationships with the University of Pittsburgh and Chatham. So we have groups from the University of Pittsburgh come in through our relationship, whether they've heard of us from a period distribution or if they've heard of us from just signing up for their Martin Luther King program. We've also physically gone to campuses and done volunteer projects as well. So there's multiple ways to engage with these school groups, whether it's creating that partnership with the school or going to some events that they host to. Either way, you're connecting with Gen Z and you're showing like, hey, I'm here for you, whether you are giving. For us, it's product, and then in turn, they want to volunteer or something of that sort.
So this is probably not super surprising, but social media is a great tool to reach the Gen Z demographic. I will admit to not being a part of the Gen Z demographic. I think I'm the only one in the intro who did not disclose my age, and I will continue to not disclose my age, but it's not Gen Z. So I have checked with my Gen Z friends and colleagues, and they recommend really leveraging, all of the social media platforms that are out there, but potentially for different purposes. So Instagram is one of the most popular platforms for Gen Z folks now. Using stories can be a really great way for others to repost post and kind of amplify a message that you're trying to send. Twitter, which I don't even know if it's called Twitter anymore. I don't know what's going on with that, but whatever the platform's called now, that tends to be where people congregate to talk about social justice and other activism opportunities. So tailoring your message to be more based on the activism side of things can be very helpful on Twitter. Facebook is also still active from what I've heard for Gen Zers, but primarily for school groups. So especially like colleges and universities who might have clubs that are active on Facebook, being able to find ways to connect with those specific groups can be a really great way to mobilize groups for certain volunteering opportunities. LinkedIn, of course, great for career focused folks, great opportunity to connect with professional groups or colleges and universities who might want to connect on volunteering opportunities. And then, of course, not overlooking TikTok as one of the fastest growing platforms, and recognizing that being able to post some creative content to TikTok can be a really creative way to get additional Gen Zers interested. And then these are just two examples of graphics that you could use on social media or in digital marketing to help attract volunteers. So a couple highlights to note on these graphics. You'll notice that we have younger volunteers being featured on these graphics. So certainly making sure that folks see their own age demographic represented in images of volunteers is important. Making sure that you have a really concise and clear call to action is important. I think I saw somebody in the chat talk about like short attention span. So make sure you have a very concise, this is the opportunity, volunteer Saturday, 10 a.m., sign up here, like very concise and to the point. Candid pictures can also be really effective as opposed to like staged group shots, so that people can kind of get a sense of the types of activities that they'll be doing at a volunteer session. And then just a quick note that nonprofits actually have the ability to get access to Canva for free. If you're not familiar with Canva, it's a really wonderful resource where you can do a lot of that design work online. So make sure you check that out if that could be a benefit to your organization.
Yeah, and if any of you are needing help with graphics or, helping create your Canva account, feel free to reach out to me after this. We've helped a lot of different customers in the past help with structure in their organizations with Civic Champs. So yeah, just let me know. Okay, yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about how to retain Gen Z by personalizing your reach out. So whether this is in an onboarding survey or this is, in an email that you're sending out, the more personalized you can be, the better. So if it is this onboarding survey, some tips we put here is ask them what their personal strengths are, ask them what their interests and preferences are, so that when they do come in to work with you, you know exactly the kinds of things that they're going to love and the kinds of things that are going to keep them coming back for more, right? Here's an example of a personalized email that I put together. The next slide shows you like a real example, but this just, is the first pass. So if you're sending out an email, put their name in the header. Say, hey, Morgan, we're super pumped to have you, so that it immediately gets their attention, right? And then continuing, right, show that you know that they're in the city that they're in. And then, adding a quote from another volunteer could really show, oh, wow, they really care about their volunteers. They care about the feedback that they're giving. Give transferable skills, like Megan was saying, for, career opportunities. They know that they're going to learn operational management. They know that they're, going to, take down 200 trees, whatever that impact piece is. It's important to put. Putting social media, similarly to what Megan said, thinking about, how you can stay up to date and show that you're, staying up to date. So this is an example. And so you can see it says, hey, Emma, we want you to volunteer. It gives a quote from another person that's in a similar age range to me. Shows that, Chloe's 24 and she's a med student at Pitt. So I could read this and be like, oh, wow, other Gen Z folks are volunteering here. It could probably be a good fit for me. Putting, the Instagram handle showing that you're up to date. And just, yeah, being as personal as possible in these reach outs is always super helpful. Great, and then we'll send this out, but just a couple more tips for retaining Gen Z, right? So tell them, create a sense of purpose for Gen Z. Tell them the impact they're going to have. Create a story and your branding and the way that you're reaching out. Tell them to invite their friends and emphasize the benefits of volunteering. as a post-COVID world, we want them to go and volunteer and make a difference. Awesome. All right, so we're going to move to the next section, which is now retaining Gen Z. So you've gotten them there, you've gotten them through the door, but how can we keep these folks coming back for more? How can they really engage after the first time that they come? All right, so these are the different talking points we'll go through for retaining Gen Z. Demonstrating impact, make it sociable, be personable again, and then offering variety.
So when you volunteer at the diaper bank, I always send an email out that's like, hey, you wrapped 5,000 diapers. Now during the tour, they find out why we do our bundles. So we bundle our diapers in packs of 25, and then each parent will get 50. So whenever they see, hey, we did 5,000, that's X amount of children that we're helping get their diaper allotment for the month or supplement their mom's diaper allotment for the month. It always helps increase their likelihood of coming back because they know, hey, I'm making a difference, and they'll see like their numbers go up, whether it's diapers they've wrapped or I've had a group. I think the last email I sent out was like, hey, you guys packaged 18,000 period products. You go. And they went, in the 2 hours we were there, it didn't feel like we did that much, but like, thank you so much for letting us know. We also post those stats on social media. So it's not just the volunteer group that is aware of all the hard work they've done. It's everybody else to also help generate awareness for the cause, as well as volunteer opportunities in the future.
Yeah, so something else I wanted to put in here, of course, is this idea of building structure within your organization. And I'd be remiss if I didn't share a little bit about Civic Champs. But of course, one of the ways that you can build structure that is, really engaging for your Gen Z audiences is through platforms like Civic Champs. So this is just a screen share of what one of the back-end pieces of the dashboard looks like. You can actually go into each individualized volunteer, write personalized notes from their experiences, see every single questionnaire they filled out, see all the reflections, and their financial estimate of impact. All these things are really, really powerful, right? While you're trying to retain these Gen Z folks and send out, personalized emails, you can know exactly the information on them. And then a couple other pieces with Civic Champs. We're a mobile first technology. And so, they can download the app on their phone and seamlessly check in and out using geofencing technology. And so this is just a really fast way, right? It creates a sense of ease for not just Gen Z, but for all audiences as they're volunteering with your nonprofit. And I'll go to the next one, which is also showing a little bit more of this mobile first experience. So after they volunteer, they can click the Discover tab at the bottom and see all the other, awesome experiences that they can have with your nonprofit. So this is really, keeping them engaged and retaining them past just a one-time experience with your nonprofit. And then lastly, we also offer the opportunity to embed a volunteering calendar onto your website. And so, right, you can click in as a volunteer, see all of the information, right, for this information generation of everything they need to know, how many people, so maybe they could even invite their friends to come register. They would know exactly when it is and where it is. And so, yeah, this is another opportunity you can have with Civic Champs. But I'll tell you more about Civic Champs at the end. We'll get back to it, and I'll pass it over to Megan.
Yeah, another tip that we have is just to make it a really social opportunity for folks to connect. So everybody values human connections, whether it's from that community building perspective or whether it's from more of a professional networking perspective. So making sure that you have the opportunity to build in time to the volunteering activity, in addition to some of the other tips that we've mentioned, like doing a tour of your facility if that's applicable. You may also want to intentionally build time to do icebreaker games, especially if the volunteer group does not already know each other, if it's different people coming from different places. And then making sure that the volunteer activities themselves have opportunities for folks to work in pairs or groups so that they can get to know each other as well.
Yeah, and I won't speak too much on this, but again, keeping it personable. this goes for everyone, not just Gen Z, but, some tips here if they're working in person. Use name tags and call them out by name, right? Say, hey, Megan, you're doing a great job, or hey, Megan and Morgan, can I have you both come over here? That just, makes people feel more included. Similarly, offer praise to your volunteers, either in person or even, shout them out online, similar to what Morgan was saying with the Western PA Diaper Bank. You could, shout out like a school group and put it on your Instagram story, just to show, right, that these groups are making a great difference for your organization. And then similarly, right, with that Civic Camps feature I was showing, or whatever platform, you can add notes. And so remember details about your volunteers so that when, you're going to reach out to them again, you can say, it was great to see you at our field day events. Like, I can't wait to see you at our next one. Here's the details, right?
So offering variety is something super duper important, whether it's, hey, you're going to wrap these diapers and then we're going to go make a TikTok just to jazz things up, or offering new experiences like skills they can use and put on their resume. An important thing that we like to do is rotate roles during the shift. So you can be wrapping, and then at one point I might either need to bump you up to a different size. At the diaper bank, honestly, it's always a surprise when you come in. You never really know what you're going to get when you walk through the door. You're either going to be wrapping diapers, packaging period products, or even doing something with incontinence supplies. You never know. I mean, we're having people put down carpeting next week. So it's always something fun. And I always make sure there's something different going on. And then having different times and date, like weekdays during the week available. I know on our Civic Champs calendar, it's normally almost every Monday and then every other Friday for our distribution days. But even volunteer groups, I know some kids need different hours to make a requirement, whether it's for their honor society or just a group they're in. So I'm always open and flexible with them. I'm like, hey, if you need a Wednesday, just shoot me a text, send me an email, and we can go from there. So always having that open flexibility is also something very useful when working with Gen Z.
Yeah. So again, here's an extra tip slide that we'll send out. But just to highlight one of these, right, just remain consistent when you're talking to your Gen Z audience, and really with all of your audiences that are volunteers. Be transparent, give them a voice, and highlight the benefits of long-term volunteering. Volunteering is great. You guys wouldn't be here if you didn't think that it was a great thing. All right, so that is the bulk of our presentation. I'm going to take you through some key takeaways, and then have Megan and Morgan share a little bit more about their organizations. And then if there are any questions, the three of us would be happy to go through that and answer some while we have some time remaining. So yeah, these main learning takeaways, I'll read them out for y'all, but Gen Z are digital natives, so make sure that you're using technology and social media to your advantage. Gen Z is passionate about social justice issues and improving their community, so emphasizing your impact as an organization, but also emphasizing their impact to your organization is really powerful. Gen Zers are in impactful and intense years of their lives, so educate them on how they can boost their college applications and resumes by volunteering with you. Like Morgan said too, they may be looking for hours if they're a part of a middle school or high school group. Really cultivate that and tell them how they can really, accelerate by working and volunteering with your organization. And then Gen Z loves feeling connected. So offer ways to socialize at your organization and be personable, especially growing up, post-pandemic world. A lot of Gen Z want to be together. I'm, working a remote job. It's nice to be able to go into an in-person experience and work with other like-minded folks on a mission that really aligns with me. And so definitely keep all of these in mind after today's webinar. And stay in touch with all of us. These are all of our emails and our LinkedIn handles. We'd be happy to talk with you after today's session. We'll send this out again, so don't stress by writing this out on pen and paper. Great. And so I'll pass it over to Megan to share a little bit more about VFA.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we run a 2-year fellowship program for recent college graduates interested in careers in entrepreneurship. So I primarily support young folks in their professional development, but they're also interested in building community across our cities. We work in 13 different cities across the United States. I oversee the Pittsburgh chapter, and I can speak specifically for Pittsburgh. We're always looking for opportunities to partner with nonprofits or other organizations that offer volunteer opportunities. Our fellows love volunteering as a way to kind of feel like they're giving back to the community, to learn more about their community, which sometimes is new. We oftentimes have fellows moving from other parts of the country. I know we have people on the webinar today from all over the country, and it even looks like other countries potentially. So if you're based in the United States, it's definitely also possible for you to connect with another VFA city. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to be connected to another VFA city. I'd be happy to facilitate that.
So I always forget that not everybody knows what a diaper bank is. So we help 13,000 families in Western Pennsylvania in Allegheny, Westmoreland, and Fayette counties receive diapers, period supplies, and incontinence supplies. Last year, we gave out 2.15 million diapers, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without the help of our volunteers and our partner agencies. If you want to learn more about us, you can definitely head over to our website. If you're from Pittsburgh, you can definitely reach out to me and I can see if we can squeeze you on to our volunteer schedule. The more the merrier. My goal is 3,000 volunteer hours this year. We are at 2,000 as of a couple days ago, so I'm almost there. So of course, just reach out if you want to come in, or if you want to help out, you can always head out to our website to see how else you can help us.
Yeah, great. A couple pieces from me here. If you're on this webinar, you have received a 25% off discount to Civic Champs that expires in August. And so I think Chloe's going to put these links in the chat for you. We'll also, I keep saying this, but we'll send it out, so don't stress. But yeah, if you want to learn more about how to build structure to retain Gen Z audiences, as well as just building structure to create a more robust volunteering management program for your nonprofit, definitely reach out. I'd love to talk a little bit more about Civic Champs. And then, yeah, if you're interested in just chatting a little bit more about what this would look like at a individualized layer for your nonprofit, I'd love to talk with you and do a bit of a one-on-one consulting session. So I think Chloe's going to put that in the chat. But yeah, sign up to speak with me. And of course, Megan and Morgan's information too. And so we'd all be happy to talk with you after this and brainstorm a little bit more if there's a particular topic that's interesting to you. And then the only other announcement I have is Civic Champs continues to collaborate with other leaders in creating webinars for free. And so these happen every Thursday. These are just the next upcoming ones. And so if you're interested, sign up to keep learning from different leaders across the country, across the world about volunteerism and nonprofit volunteerism specifically. Great. So we have made it to the end. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you learned something and you're going to take away something and bring it back to your colleagues. But yeah, if there's anybody that has questions, we'll go through this now. Chloe, if there's something in the chat, can people still hear me? If there's something in the chat, can you maybe unmute and facilitate some of these questions for us?
Yeah, so we had a question from Parents for Public Schools Incorporated. They asked if they think these tips are the same for all ethnic and social groups.
It's a great question. I will open it up also to Morgan and Megan. I think there's a lot, of varying differences depending on who you're working with, right? We did a really umbrella here with, 11 to 26-year-olds. That's even a really big umbrella, thinking about how different those different groups could really look. And so, no, I wouldn't say it's the same for everyone. I'd say really do your research, depending on where you are geographically, depending on the history of your city, depending on the history of your nonprofit. really thinking about the varying differences of, ethnic groups, as well as, 13-year-olds and 21-year-olds. Those are going to look like really different groups. So I'd say dig deeper for sure. But Morgan, Megan, if you guys want to add anything to that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the themes are universal. Like everybody has a need for human connection. Everybody wants to understand the impact of their work. So I think some of the tips are universal, but certainly there are some specific strategies that, especially when it comes to volunteer recruitment, can help you reach a more diverse audience. At VFA, we're really intentional in leveraging different recruitment strategies to make sure that we do have a diverse group of fellows. So it's not exactly the same as volunteer recruitment, but we partner with a lot of HBCUs and other organizations to make sure that we do have diversity represented in the fellowship. So I think like some of the concepts are pretty universal, but also some of the implementation strategies I think need to be a little bit more nuanced.
I agree with everyone. We have different groups that come in with very different backgrounds. I know I had Siwa in last week, which is a predominantly Asian/Indian group. And they came in, and a younger girl actually facilitated and coordinated the whole group volunteering process. And she said she found out about us through a Google search because they were looking for something different to do. And they've also gone to some of our partner agencies. So it kind of just depends on how you implement everything. I know for us, it just kind of was like a word of mouth thing. And she ended up getting to us after going to a lot of our different partner agencies.
Great. Chloe, are there any other questions you want to bring up to the group?
Yeah, so Greg asked how to reconcile the desire for information and short attention spans. And so we went a little bit into rotating roles and shifts and making volunteering like an opportunity to socialize. But do you guys have any other ideas?
Yeah, I would say, well, no, Megan, you go first. I went first last time.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say like simplify your process wherever possible. I mean, we talked about like clear call to actions, but then also just making sure the process to register as a volunteer is very streamlined and very simple, because you don't want to lose somebody halfway through the process because it was convoluted. So I think just like streamlining the process wherever you can is also really helpful.
I think also speaking from experience, right, on that, socializing piece, and I think a lot of people feel this way too, but when you're with others and maybe you even like put out some questions that you guys could ask each other while you're, packaging diapers, and by enabling that engagement with their community, I feel like the time goes by a lot faster, right? You could be standing there for 2 hours, but if you really have like guided questions to help you get to know the people around you and you just start talking and you're making friends, I think that also helps with like short attention spans and maybe like being bored or whatever. But yeah, that's what I would add too. Cool. Maybe we do 1 or 2 more questions, Chloe, and then for those who didn't have questions answered, feel free to reach out to us after to talk about it.
Yeah, I think we only had one other question, which another person on the call answered nicely. It was, yeah, I'm not sure if any of you will have an answer to this because it's quite specific. But it is from Europe. We have an issue with digital volunteering and GDPR. How do you combat the obstacles that come with protecting people's privacy? I mean, sure, we can give volunteers access to certain files, but it's a big issue here to give access to files with sensitive information, especially through emails.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep question. I would say making sure that you're following protocol as far as, maybe they need to sign, an IP agreement, or maybe they need to sign a non-disclosure, something like that. If you really are going to share, specific kind of pieces to your organization with them across the internet, or across email. But I do not personally have any experiences to that. And so I don't know, Morgan or Megan, if you have any other tips for that question.
Honestly, I don't, but somebody who posted in chat with a response seemed to have really great suggestions. Like you said, Emma,
Great.
just make sure your agreements are in place, and when in doubt, err on the side of
Yeah.
caution, probably.
Yeah, I don't have any background with this because I haven't ever left, Pennsylvania. But I would also, for us, with privacy, we always make sure everything's signed. If you don't want to be in something, you don't have to be in anything if it's pictures and sharing it. So as long as all like the waivers are signed, just make sure that everybody's good. And we also always double check. Like you can write like, hey, yeah, I'm good with this, but we always either send out an email or we physically ask, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Are you okay with this happening? As well with like making sure everything's signed.
Yeah, that's great. Well, folks, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. We'll send it out. Feel free to reach out to us. But we really thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend time with us, to learn a little bit something about Gen Z and their volunteer habits. So thank you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes if anybody has very specific questions they want to ask. But if not, have a great rest of your Thursday.